Hi, everyone. So, as many of you know, aka you have me on Facebook, I'm Christina. This is Aleks Trpkovska.
Hi,
We are doing a Facebook Live for Professional Foundations with Aleks. This is our second session, and we're actually doing it off of my profile this time because we wanted to do a two-way Facebook Live with Johnny Trpkovski, who is a recruiter from Chicago. So this will
Hi,
be
everybody.
Oh, hello. Wow. Friends joining in. Pozdrav.
Love this.
So we're doing this this Facebook Live on my profile today. This will be shared on Generation M's page.
Hey, Maria. Hi, everybody. Hey, listen, Johnny. Perfect. All right, Johnny.
All right, let's add Johnny in.
So, do you want to tell them a little bit about today's topic?
So today we're focusing on job interviews. Go for it. We're going to be focusing on job interviews, basically from the minute that you get asked for a job interview, including preparation, presentation and appearance, questions you should ask, the follow-ups and everything. So the entire process of job interviews we're going to be covering. Aleks here is a professional in this. I'm going to be learning a lot, and I'm sure a lot of you are going to be learning a lot. So yeah, let's
give Johnny just a moment. We invited you, Johnny, so I believe that you need to accept something and join us. So when we rolled out these topics, Johnny actually sent us an email, and he had ideas he wanted to share what he does as a recruiter, and we thought it would be wonderful to have him join. So if any of you guys want to share your talents, it is to include you, to highlight. We have amazing professionals in this group, and it's always helpful to share that expertise with others. So while we're waiting for him to join and we navigate the technology, maybe I'll just kick off with my interesting idea and the way in which I think about interviews. Okay, so I think about interviews as just a life skill, right? So we have conversations about ourselves all the time. Yet for some reason, when we think about interviews for a job, we get nervous. And I want to compare it actually to dating, because the thing is, dating is a series of interviews. And I think most of us can recognize the fact that we do get dressed up and present our best foot forward in order to present ourselves at those dates. So just like interviewing for a job, right? You want to know as much about them as you want them to know about you. So it's not a one-way street. And I think that's one thing that people generally forget when they're interviewing for a job. They generally think, okay, this is for me to tell them as much as I can tell them about me. And that's great. The company wants to know a lot about you. They want to know about your values. They want to know about what drives you and inspires you. And whether or not you're driven to accomplish results. But at the same time, they want you to show interest in them. Because the thing is, if you are not interested in them and you don't ask any questions, they may be turned off, frankly, to use even a dating term, and in having you join their team. They want somebody who will care and somebody who's going to be invested in that. So we're going to keep on trying to have Johnny join us, but I think in the interest of time and making sure that we respect your half an hour that we have with us, we're going to probably continue with the interview until Johnny is able to join us. We know Johnny is here. We've sent him the invitation to join, and I think he's having some issues,
some technical difficulties at the moment, but. Yeah. Aleks, if you wanna get started and start with the preparation process for job interviews, go for it.
Yeah. So last time we talked about resumes. We also talked about how you reach out to people a little bit. But when an interview is scheduled, there's a lot of logistics that actually need to be figured out, and the sooner you ask those questions, the most comfortable you can be showing up to that interview. So I actually we brought this book and we have the banner behind me. This is my book, Pain-Free Path to College. And it's all about life skills. And I truly believe that, because when I used to invite students to interview with me for admission to Georgetown, because I used to interview for Georgetown before I started doing that as a side business in terms of preparation, I would invite the student to give me some time availability so that we can coordinate the interview. And I cannot tell you how many times that message would go unanswered for days or weeks. And sometimes even before the deadline, somebody would reach out and try to schedule an interview really quickly so that they can get it under the deadline. Now, in the professional setting, the case is a little bit different, and hopefully people are more professional, but it's really important that you're monitoring your inbox, that you are following up when people do send you an invitation to interview, that you do get times that can show up, whether that's physically or online, right? It may be a phone interview, and that happens a lot. It's actually one of the forms of pre-screening that does happen. So the preparation of understanding what the medium is going to be like, where do you need to be, how do you need to arrange your transportation. When I first graduated from Georgetown, one of my interviews was at Tyson's Corner, and I didn't have a car. So that's kind of like in the suburb area. There wasn't a metro that went there. I needed to go, I think, on 2 buses in a metro to get there. And it was a hot summer day, and I chose to wear a 3-piece suit. So not only did I need to figure out the logistics of how I get there ahead of time, and I'm prepared, right? If I was interviewing on a rainy day, maybe I need to have a pair of different shoes to change into. So those are all things that actually take part of the preparation. We actually do have some handouts for you that we'll share. I'm going to try to figure out how I can pull out a chapter from my book that's on interviews. And it does go step by step, literally, on how do you prepare for this, because it's important. Let's just check in.
All right, so I'm going to have to step out for 2 seconds. Aleks, go
I'm
for
running
it.
the show.
Start the show.
All right. So you guys, if you have any questions, feel free to write them out. We did have a couple of questions submitted to us in advance, so I have them in front of me. But we also do have a preliminary list of topics that we wanted to address. So in addition to essentially preparation, we also wanted to talk about preparation, how you show up. We also wanted to talk about preparation in how you answer the questions. So there is a list of commonly asked interview questions. We will share that list. It's not a surprise, and it's nothing unusual. Questions about a failure that you have had, or even to be asked about what's your favorite movie and why. And the thing is, when you're not prepared to answer those questions, what happens is the people that are interviewing you make assumptions, right? So if I were to schedule a meeting with you, whether you're my intern or my associate, and you come unprepared to that meeting, it's the same as if you are coming unprepared to answer that question in an interview. Sure, there's going to be some questions that are going to throw you off, and it's a matter of seeing how you react to it. But a big list of those questions already exists. So one thing that I will share with you guys is a Google worksheet. It has a list of the commonly asked questions, and then next to them, you can make a copy of this worksheet. And next to them, you can, in the column, you can draft your notes about how you would answer the question. Now, it's pretty simple. You guys are the experts on yourselves, right? On me, there's nobody else that can tell me that what I'm saying is wrong. If I'm talking about a failure that I had and how it affected me, it's literally an experience that cannot be judged. And therefore, that's something that we can prepare for. So to be unprepared for an interview that you're the expert in is definitely something that's like a telltale sign of you're just winging it. And if you're winging that for something that's as big as a job, that's going to pay for your living and your fun, then in reality, like, what else are you going to wing every day on the roll? Let's see, I'm just going to take a moment to look at some of the comments. So Maria is asking where we are based out of. We're both actually right now in Washington, D.C. Christina is as well. She's not sitting right here. She's trying to figure out the tech issue with Johnny right now, but we're sitting actually at the UMD office, and we're looking at the Washington National Monument. But yeah, so keep on posting. Let's see. Let's talk a little bit about the form and the medium of the interview. So if you do have a phone interview, it's really different in the way in which you approach it, because body language and body cues are a big part of how we communicate as people, and it's important to be cognizant of that fact. So when you're on the phone, you actually really have to pay attention with how you convey your energy. If your energy is really low and you don't sound like you're excited and everything sounds like a big drab on your and it's a big hassle for you to be on this call, like just really negative energy, you can feel that on a call. So you really have to maybe, one, get yourself dressed up, even if it's pajama bottoms on the bottom, even if you're doing a live Zoom session or something. Always think about how you can get yourself in that mindset of being professional. And you can look at yourself in the mirror. You can think about the same body language that you would have in a session. And when I'm on the phone with somebody, I think they can generally tell when I'm smiling or when I'm not. And that's important because it does come through as one of the factors. But phone interview, video. If you are doing a video session, we talked about just testing it out, joining the platform if you can ahead of time. But the big thing is really just making sure that you can see yourself before you go live with that person, whether it's on your own like iPad or something, to that you're presentable. If you, I know that for females, this is a big thing. Like, you don't want to have, for guys, this is easy because generally you would wear a suit, at least on top. But for females, I mean, you can wear a dress. And the thing is, with the dress, you can figure out what's showing, what's not showing. Maybe there's a part of the dress that, like, it's one of those hanger things that keeps on sticking out. And you just tuck it in before the call so that you're not fussing about your hair or something else during the call. And then for a live interview, it's definitely the whole package. And I know that we only have half an hour on this session, so those handouts that we give you guys afterwards is something that you guys can share. Let me take a moment to check in with Christina as far as what's going on.
So unfortunately, Johnny, the recruiter from Chicago, it doesn't look like he'll be able to join us today. But we will figure something out to have him, I don't know, maybe do a Gen M live, just kind of to talk about things from a recruiter's perspective. And yeah, in the meantime, we're just going to keep going. He does have a couple of notes that he wants us to cover for him, and I'm sure we'll get to those a little bit later. And yeah, for the meantime, what have we covered?
We have talked a lot about preparation, and preparation as far as people preparing answers to commonly asked questions. And the big thing that I was echoing is that there is a list of commonly asked questions. So if you do not have an answer that you can literally participate with in the moment, it's really awkward, because that's what the purpose of the interview is, especially the behavioral interview, right? This is what we're talking about primarily. We're not talking about case interviews or different styles, because that's very specific for different kinds of industries, but we're talking about behavioral interviews. Tell me a little bit more about yourself. And somebody had actually posed that question, right? So I can address that one. That question, what it really asks is for you to be succinct, and this is the opportunity for you to give in your elevator pitch. Like, who is Aleks? I'm a strategist that's passionate about education and families and people living their purpose. And so I can stop right there, and I don't have to elaborate. I don't even have to add all of the titles. But what generally comes afterwards is additional questions and the conversation happens organically. So it's either let me tell you a little bit more about how I do that. I wrote a book that helped me help other students with the admissions process. And in the process, we talked about life skills. And the life skills cover interviewing, resumes, and other aspects of the process. They're really not just a part of admissions, but they're life skills that will take students and people to success throughout their life. So it's literally thinking about the impact that you have with each sentence. And the pitch comment is really about, think about this. You get into an elevator, and whether that's the CEO of a company or just somebody that you really would like to know. Let's say I'm in the elevator with Mark Cuban from Shark, right? Like, I love that show. So I love listening to entrepreneurs. And the thing is, pitch ideas. And the thing is, when you are an entrepreneur that's pitching an idea, you generally don't have that much time with either venture capitalists or others to tell them who you are and what your idea is. But the same thing happens for recruiting. There's so many people looking for jobs. So you don't want to be just another person that's looking for a job. You want to talk a little bit about purpose. You want to talk about your passion, and you want that to come through. So that was one of the questions I think somebody asked that posed before us.
Perfect. So I just want to remind everyone, you can, of course, comment your questions down below in the comments, obviously.
We're seeing as you guys are
send us your questions. Alex is here to answer. If there's something that's more, geared towards, the recruiter themselves, specifically, I believe it was in finance.
Finance and accounting.
We could definitely redirect that to Johnny to answer at a later date. So send us your questions. We're here. So what's next?
Okay, so we talked about you guys. We talked about questions you should ask, right? So that's on our little agenda sheet over here. And Johnny, one of Johnny's spreadsheet or it has a list of questions that you can use. As earlier, for any of you guys that joined us later, interviewing for a job is very similar to dating. It's not just about putting your best foot forward and you presenting yourself in the best light. It's also about asking and getting to know the other person, right? So whether you're interviewing with a potential new boss or teammates, you want to ask them about themselves, about their job, about where they see the company going, about opportunities and for you and how they see you fitting into their team. So if you don't ask those questions, it's kind of like you're assuming that you're going to fit in. And people love other people that ask the question, that are curious, that don't assume things like that. So the other part that I would say in an interview, it's very boring if it's just one person talking, and everybody loves talking about themselves. I said that very softly, but everybody does love talking about themselves. If you're doing all of the talking, that's good, but use that last 5 minutes to ask your interviewer questions. If you don't, and you say, well, I don't really have questions for you right now, I can tell you that when I'm on the other side, I feel like it's a big missed opportunity. They could ask so many questions. I'll give you an example, for example, for college admissions. If it's a student that does not want to know a single thing from an alum, from somebody that went to the school, whether it is, what did you study? What is your favorite class? But for careers, for example, what's the thing that you love about this company? How long have you been with the company if the person hasn't told you? It's basically asking the other person to reflect and to be able to share in that, really like that session, a little bit about themselves. So it's not just you talking the whole time. Let them participate in the process.
Perfect. So I actually have two questions here. They were sent in by Johnny. Actually, he wanted us to definitely mention them for what questions to ask in an interview or at the end of an interview. And the first one is, you ask your employer or your potential employer, what are your expectations of someone in the first 30 days, 3 months, or 1 year in this position?
And let me just elaborate on that one, right? So they want somebody to join their team. It's generally because they have a need, right? So they're short-staffed and they need to reach certain deadlines. They have goals. They need to publish something. They need to have a meeting, and they need you to hit the ground running. So asking that question is literally it gets you thinking about what are the key performance criteria for you once you take on that role. So it gives them the understanding that you're a go-getter, that you are ready, you're professional, and that you care about their success, because this is what it boils down to.
Perfect. And the second question is, what are some characteristics that have made someone successful in this position in the past?
A very, very similar question, right? So it's about asking, what is it that you look for in a candidate? That's the other way of saying it. And that's
exactly
really good.
Exactly. And Johnny's just stressing that it shows that you're already invested and interested in joining the company. So
lots of good tips. And Johnny, we're sorry that you're unable to join. We were really excited to try this thing out. But that's okay. That's life. And we're just going to wing it. And we'll figure out another way to make that happen.
Exactly. Awesome.
Yeah. So let's talk a little bit about follow-up. And as we do that, again, we're here for you guys to answer questions that you have. Some of us have done a lot of interviews on one side or the other. In corporate America, I actually do a lot of interviews on the other side, but I also want to interview clients, for example, for my personal business, whether it's for career coaching or for college admissions. I am pre-screening them through interviews. And what we generally do is that we actually do a mock interview on the front end. I record them. I show them how they show up. We analyze every single thing, whether it's their eye contact, their ability to answer a question thoroughly. I give them tools. One tool that I'll touch on briefly, actually, before we talk about the follow-up is when you're answering questions, to make sure that you're answering them thoroughly, you should think about there's a star or a car concept. So it's all about thinking, how do I really just answer the question fully? So I'm just going to just say what STAR stand for. So STAR, situation or task. Situation, what was the situation that you're talking about? What specific tasks that you were assigned? What were the actions you took? The light is blinding us from the window, but we're hopefully you guys can see us, even if we can't see the screen.
I'm slowly backing away, but go for it.
Yeah, but so situation, task, actions that you have taken, and the results that you got. So whether this is a question about a situation where you failed, or this is a situation about where your teammates may not have pitched in, and how did you handle that? So it's not you failing, but it's about, this is a difficult situation, but it's an everyday situation on the job. Teammates don't always show up. So if you're asked that question, you should elaborate on what was the situation, what were the tasks that were assigned, how were they clearly delegated, what were the actions that you took, did you have to have a difficult conversation with your team in order to make progress the next time, and then what were the results coming out of it. So that's how you make sure that you actually answer the question, because I cannot tell you how many times people give one-line answers, and then I have to ask the why. So what? That how did that make you feel, or what did you do afterwards? And the thing is, I as an interviewer should not be doing the fishing job to get those answers, because this is an opportunity for you to tell me how you would solve the problem. I can help you with it, and a lot of interviewers do, because otherwise, let's face it, it would be really awkward and the interview would be over in less time than it was allotted. So use the time smartly, and that comes with that preparation. I don't know if you have a question on that one, or if you just transition to the follow-up.
No, well, I just wanted to kind of follow up on that also with saying, also by just giving like a one-line answer, in a way it's kind of saying that you're not really as interested in the position, I guess, as the recruiter or the interviewer thought you were in the first place. So it's very important to elaborate and to, I guess, maybe even prepare some questions beforehand, and just kind of think of supporting points for the question that they might ask. You have to do a lot of thinking on your feet, I feel like, either way, but
And that's one I talked about the worksheet that I have, and it's literally kind of like an Excel in Google, and you guys can make a copy of it. It has the questions that are commonly asked, and then what you do is you have blank columns where you can write scenarios that you particularly identify with, experiences from your life that you can talk about at an interview. That's the thing. Once you have this thing, like one brainstorming exercise done for yourself. It doesn't have to take hours. Next time you think of something, you can add it to that place. And whenever you're going into an interview, just review it. It's going to remind you of a time when, I don't know, you had a challenging peer and you were working under a deadline. So there's going to be odd questions, but again, the list of questions is actually pretty common. So it should be pretty hard to throw you off your feet completely, and that's a really big tip. My eyes are going towards Johnny, and Johnny has offered his email, and thank you, Johnny, for that. I do think that he has an awesome experience to share with us on this side, because as a recruiter, he deals with this on another level. He prepares candidates, but he also screens the resumes, and he screens people that should go into that interview, right? And it's obviously time for people to interview you. So they don't invite everybody to an interview. And if you do get that interview, make sure that you show up fully for that. So we're at, I think, 26 minutes. I'll touch briefly on the follow-up process. So you would be surprised by how many people don't send any notes after an interview to say a thank you. And to even summarize a couple of points that really resonated with them. So thank you for the time to meet with me. I am very interested into that role. And Johnny has another template on that. I also have a template that I use with clients, but I often tailor it with them based on their interests and their personality, because you can tweak these things so it's like your character and who you are comes through. It's not always a template. You can't copy paste everything. You're going to have to customize and think through for yourself on a lot of these things. But following up, and if you say that you're going to follow up with them on a certain day for something, then do it. Because here is an example. Let's say that we had an interview, and Christina is the person that I had the interview with, and I tell her, I'm going to follow up with you in a week and let you know what the progress is. And let's say that I don't follow up in a week. And I can do that, right? Because I'm the interviewer, and things can change on my end. Now, a good interviewer would actually manage your expectations, especially if you're really good and they want you on the team. But you shouldn't assume that it's just on me. So Christina can say, okay, if I don't hear from you on Friday of next week, would it be okay if I reach out to you the following week? And of course, I would say, yes, thank you. That's showing initiative. So if the interviewer does not give you a time frame, you can ask for that time frame. And if they don't give you a time frame in the interview when you're wrapping up, if they don't give you a time frame via email, and include it in one of your emails and say, I'm really excited. I'm looking forward to hearing from you. And if I don't hear from you by Wednesday, I'll try to give you a call so we can connect again. And we're not inviting you to be aggressive about it. It's just about staying on top of the ball and making sure that you're conveying that you're just as interested in this as they are into finding the perfect candidate. Because believe it or not, sometimes the people that show the most interest are the ones that get the job, because they show that they want to be there. And that's a big thing. I mean, it's obvious, right? And you don't want to date somebody who doesn't want to show up, who doesn't want to show up on time, who doesn't care about following up on a text or a voicemail that you sent. It's really common sense, but you would be surprised how many people mess it up. So yeah, I want to make sure that this resonates with people in a way that's very real, because most of these professional foundations are actually life skills. And it's really about making sure that you have the right skills for life, because it affects not just how you get the job, but how you deliver it later on as well.
I agree. I agree. That's awesome. So we're almost at the end of this Facebook Live. If anyone has any questions, feel free to comment them. We'll try to answer them. Have we covered this one?
I think that, yeah, it's one of the follow-up questions that Johnny accentuated. It's sort of like, why do you want to ask it? I can try to answer it right
So
now.
it's basically, so if the interviewer asks you, why do you want to work for us? Or can you contribute better to our team? I was just asking Alex if we've covered that, but
maybe like we covered it on the other side, like when you should ask the interviewer, like, what is it that they're looking for and other stuff. But the same question goes to people. So whenever you're answering questions, they need to be genuine answers. So why do you want to work for us? It's a good question, right? Why? And so the answers can vary. What this question really probes at is, have you done your research about the company? So is it a family-friendly company? If you're a working mom or a working parent, is it that they have excellent benefits? Is it that they have a team culture that allows for you to take a sick day without feeling bad about it, right? If you have friends that work at that company, it's really important to mention that, to say that I know people that work here and love it. They love the culture. Something that I want to experience and feel when I come into my job every day, right? So your why can be very central to who you are, but it shows that you have thought about it and that you have done research on it.
I have one more question.
And then give me one.
Oh, sorry.
Yeah, I'll answer the second part of that.
I thought you were finishing up, but go ahead.
I have the paper in front of me here. So what can you contribute to better our team, right? So this is an opportunity for you to talk about your strengths. You can talk about how you're adaptable and how you're flexible, how you work good as a team member. And this is an opportunity for you to highlight maybe any sports experience that you have had, right? This is not specific professional experience, but it is relatable. And this is where people just try to make it about work. It doesn't always have to be about work. If you have been playing volleyball most of your life and you are a team captain for a lot of it, it means that you can delegate work. That's huge because a lot of people in the professional work how to do that, and it's not natural for them. So again, what can you contribute? It's about your strengths. It's about you showing another perspective of you and making sure that if you haven't answered that already in an interview, like this is an opportunity for you to sneak in another good thing about you that makes the interviewer want to have you on their team.
Okay, cool. I had one question actually, and that is, how do you handle a question that's asked that you have no idea the answer to?
Do you have an idea?
Let's say it's something about your experience with a certain program, or they use an abbreviation that you haven't heard before.
Yeah.
How are you supposed to handle something like that?
Okay, so first I would say honesty, right? Honesty, humility, being humble, not like humiliated, but being humble, and stop like judging yourself at that moment. It's not like, oh my God, I don't know this, so I'm not going to get the job. I think most of our minds go that way, and so do it. You can say, excuse me, can you tell me a little bit more about that? You can also say, if you know specifically that they're talking about a program, you can say, I have not worked with that program before, but I am a fast learner. I love technology, if you do, right? It needs to be honest. And I can pick it up, so I'm interested in learning more. You can also, if you know that it's relatable to another technology that you know, for example, you can say, I have experience with so-and-so, and I think that there are certain things that are transferable skills that I can leverage, but I do not have experience with that particular program, and I'm happy to learn. So I would never lie in an interview. It's going to bite you in so many ways, and honestly, it's disappointing, and it undermines the trust that you are trying to build with that team. When we're talking about jobs, I mean, it used to be so much more about jobs with other older generations. Right now, we're talking about purpose-driven careers, right? And people change a lot more often than they used to. So if there is a need for you to lie, the reality is this is not a good match for you. Or you need to just say, I don't have any of the experience in this industry, but I want to learn. So I'm willing to start from the bottom and work myself up. Does that answer your question?
Absolutely. So definitely be honest, and it helps to put a positive spin on things. So that's good.
Yeah,
that's awesome.
I see Maria is giving me a plug. She actually asked, what is the name of my book? And so it's The Pain-Free Path to College. It's a step-by-step guide. By step. I meant this to be more of a workbook, and there is space for people to answer questions. I literally structure things so that they're able to be done in like hour-long increments. I think it's a quick read, and the feedback that I have gotten from people is that it's very actionable. And that was my thing. I read a lot of books, and I love books, but I also love to implement what it is that I learned, because if I don't, and I don't have a chance to really take notes on what I'm doing right then, it escapes me. It's just like reading an article. And so whenever you're picking up, I think, a book, that's the goal is for you to practice and to learn new skills, which is what the purpose of my goal was in my book. I feel like it's really important to start implementing things. So if I can leave you guys with one tip before we sign out, thank you, Maria, as well. If I can leave you with one thing, is I would tell you to practice. So I already said how interviewing is like dating, and it doesn't have to be romantic. But practice giving interviews to these commonly asked questions. We'll maybe make a post that has all of these links all together with your friends, and have them seriously like ask you questions. I cannot tell you how many people, when I started in consulting, they asked me, what the heck do you do? What is consulting? What does a consultant even mean? And so I needed to find a way to explain it so that everybody can understand it. And the best way that I could explain it is the way that I would explain it to my parents, because my parents didn't grow up around consultants, and to them the word didn't mean anything. So I actually say, like, we're doctors for companies. That's in corporate consulting, right? Management consulting. We need to go in, figure out what the company is having issues with, and we need to figure out essentially what the symptoms are, what the causes are, and how they can change it around. So because of that, I feel like that's a relatable way to convey it. That's also really brief. Instead of me saying, I work with data and spreadsheets, I interview clients, I try to understand what it is they do every day and try to improve their process, I can always elaborate, and we can have more of a deep conversations. And this is why it's important to practice with a friend or somebody that doesn't know much about what you do. But preparing, taking the time to invest in yourself. This is what we're talking about, right? This is about the bigger investment that you do in terms of time into yourself, and the better you can come off in an interview. I would assume that there's probably a correlation to the kind of job that you can get and the kind of salary that you can demand in the workforce. Because if you are prepared and you stand out, people are going to want to keep you on their team and get you, and that generally comes with a higher salary. So I hope that helps people to obtain better opportunities in the future. And I know it does. I know it did for me.
Perfect. Thank you so much, Aleks.
Anytime.
We're a little bit over time, but I guess if we have no other questions, we'll wrap it up here. So this was our second session for Professional Foundations with Aleks Trpkovska. Again, the author of The Pain-Free Path to College.
And Maria, the book is on Amazon. I didn't talk about that. It's only on Amazon, but anybody can read it globally.
We'll put the link in the comments shortly. And yeah, hopefully we'll have Johnny Obedkovsky on here, again, the recruiter from Chicago, to speak about his experiences as a recruiter on the GenM Facebook page. Yeah. Thank you all so much.
And we're having these sessions monthly. So
yes.
we'll join you guys again in April. And the topic may be about financials and money. That's one aspect that we didn't talk about, even about negotiations and jobs, but also about money management. So you guys can tell us. We are curious to hear about what you guys want to know, because we want to make it relevant to you, but also very relevant topics. Thank you. I just wanted to plug that in.
No, perfect. Okay, thank you so much, everyone.
Bye.
Bye.